Hello everyone, welcome back to Pixel Village and I'm Radha Krishnan. 1424, 1635, 2470 and 7200. These were one of the most popular, I would say evergreen zoom ranges for a DSLR user, a full frame DSLR user. Besides the camera brands themselves, lots of optic manufacturers also made them in plenty. Into the party came Mirrorless only to spoil the party because suddenly there was a small kind of confusion in the ranks. Now you see a lot of unusual zoom ranges that are available for you to buy and use. In this video, we're going to be talking about one such lens with an unusual zoom range. And that is the Tamron 70-180 f2.8. The most popular one, like I told you, was the 70-200. For some reason, Tamron decided to make a 70-180 f2.8. Now this one is built for Sony E mount. Now while I was in Tokyo, Japan during the CP Plus in 2019, the Tamron officials, Kenji-san, I remember showing me the pre-production samples of all these lenses. And I was fortunate enough to even hold one in my hand, and they were not even branded. They continued that range and their commitment to, creating world-class optics for new cameras. This one is the latest from that range. The 70-180 f2.8 DI III VXD for Sony E mount. Let's take a closer look at this lens. Now, the first impression that it is small, compact for the range, and it's extremely light. The 70-180, the zoom range, draws direct comparison to Sony's 70-200, which actually is a monster lens. Though we don't do comparisons in Pixel Village, but for the sake of mentioning, let me mention to you that the 70-200 is twice as big, almost, twice as heavy, and definitely more than twice as expensive. Let's worry more about this lens. Okay, now, like I said, very nice compact design, feels very nice in your hand, very light. There are no switches or buttons on the outside other than a lock switch, which actually locks the lens in position at the 70 mm range. Now, if you want to start using it, you need to unlock it, then you can start using the lens. This is the zoom ring, and of course you have the focusing ring too. And as you must be knowing already, this has an f2.8 opening, and it employs 9 blades, and the aperture is a perfect circle, which means you are likely to get a better shaped bokeh. We are worried about it as wedding photographers, portrait photographers. We are definitely worried about the bokeh characteristics. We will go into a shoot and figure out how this guy delivers. This lens also has a moisture resistant construction, which means you can take it out in the open and don't worry about these minor sprays and stuff. Nothing would leak into the lens, creating noise or any kind of damage. That's something that you can be assured about. The front element is the one which is in touch with the elements. Okay, there are two kinds of lens coating which Tamron uses here. One is to improve quality, one is to improve the longevity. The BBAR G2 coating, which basically means broadband anti-reflective generation 2 coating, improves the image quality by reducing ghosting, reducing flare, etc. We will actually shoot against sun and see how this guy is going to behave. One. The fluorine coating, which is the other coating which is there on the surface of this front element, takes care of accidental moisture splashing on it, grease, your hands are full of grease, oily substances. Because of that fluorine coating, you can clean those away very conveniently, thereby improving the life of the lens. Now, Sony cameras are known for their focusing capability. So Tamron has used a very high torquey linear motor in it. VXD in the lens nomenclature stands for that. Voice coil, extreme torque drive. Now whatever that means, Tamron knows better. I know that this guy is going to focus damn fast. That's all that I'm worried about. Okay, now what else that we need to worry about? We need to worry about how this guy is going to perform in a real life scenario. So let's get into a shoot. Let's look at some images. Like they say, seeing is believing. So we have Priya helping us in today's shoot. Priya Ashok, she's an actress and a model. Okay, now before we get into the shoot, I'm going to ask Priya, why don't you give out your Insta handle so that our viewers can follow you in case if you'd like to.
Yes, so my Instagram handle is PiyaSlaySmart. You can find me by username Priya Ashok.
Hey, wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, so get into the shoot, all right? So what we are trying to do is to set up a restaurant-like look in our studio. You've seen our studio, you know how messy it is. But in a small place, we are trying to recreate a studio, a restaurant-like, a coffee shop-like situation. Well, we ran out and got some, a cake, borrowed some, cappuccino cups from the, restaurant below. I have one disposable plate and a fork and some tissues. Now, this lens, though has a 2.8, it doesn't have an optical image stabilization. But the A7R4 has in-body stabilization. Because this lens is a lightweight lens, I'll be able to manage this shot. And with a 80-200 or one of those 70-200s, which are probably twice as heavy as this one is, there is a chance of you kind of introducing a little shake into the image. Let's get into the shoot now. This lens is also a fantastic macro lens. To get the macro activated, you need to go to the 70mm side of it and manually focus it. So deactivate the autofocus, switch to manual, and then you will get a focus assist, and using which you can do the focusing. And focus where you want. This is perfect to shoot wedding rings, eyes, close-up of eyes, etc. So a wedding photographer is going to really like it. Now the second shot that we are trying to attempt is, well, we are actually in the duct where all the AC compressors are kept. So ignore the, ambient nuisance. But she's going to be on the other side of this glass, and I'm going to catch her in a kind of a very, kind of a rather thinking kind of a mode with a coffee in her hand. She's looking out to nowhere kind of a situation. I'm using two LED lights. I'm going to use that to create a little bit of some play of light on her hair, and I'm going to catch her through the glass, all right? And of course, the 70-180 f2.8. And I'm going to shoot at 2.8, and I'm going to throw the backdrop and of course the reflection. Everything is going to be out of focus, and hopefully we'll create an interesting portrait here. Let's take a look at it. I really like the way the lens handled flare and strong backlights. The focus fall off was very good, and the bokeh again was fantastic. Okay, so what do you think of those images? I am not referring to my photography, but I'm talking about those images that we shot in the studio and we shot outside as well. Well, I think those images in terms of sharpness, color reproduction, bokeh characteristics, focus fall off, in all those aspects, I think this lens has delivered. And of course, we have the A7R4, on it, which means this lens has the kind of resolution or the resolving power to deliver images to this high resolution sensor, to put it in layman's language. Also, for the technically inclined, you can refer to the MTF charts which are given in the website, which very clearly says that at 70 and full open, it gives you fantastic resolution almost till the edge of the lens, and at the 180 end, full open, it still holds great amount of details in full open apertures. Let me explain that close-up photography feature of this lens, which is a very unique feature for a lens of this size, to you very, very closely. Now, I'm going to use this Japanese doll, okay, and I'm going to shoot it for you. Now, what you have to do is that this feature is available, like I explained in the beginning, while we were doing that shoot. This works only in manual mode. So switch the camera to manual mode. The lens doesn't have any, switches like I told you in the beginning. Camera to manual mode, and you have to go to the 70 mm end of it. This feature is available only at the 70 mm end, okay? Now, because of the way in which this achieves that macro focus, you have to, in case if you have to get nice depth, you must shoot it at f4 or 5.6. At 2.8, it will be really, really wafer thin, which is also a nice effect if whenever you want that effect. And then use the manual ring to achieve the focus. You will get a visual indication. If you're shooting stills, you will get a visual indication in your LCD, and bring the lens to the close-up, the minimum focusing distance, by turning your focusing ring, and slowly move your camera in and achieve that focus. Okay, so that's how you do it. Now, in case if you are doing a video, you will not get that indicator inside. What you have to do is to visually see, because you're seeing it, so it's very convenient. Now we're going to shoot some images of this Japanese doll. I'm going to create some very dramatic lighting using colored lights, and let me show it to you. You will also see the bokeh characteristics in that shot. Now, besides that, this lens also offers great minimum focusing distance. At 70 and 180, the minimum focusing distance is very, very low. So, which means you can go really close and get a nice, close-up if you like. That actually makes this lens a highly desirable one. Well, the one which I really liked, besides all those things which are probably not really entirely visible to a naked eye, is the lightness, the compact nature of this lens. When someone like me gripped this A7R Mark IV, I still have one loose finger. The little finger is loose, and I usually use that to support the bottom of the camera. Now, that finger also takes the weight, okay? Now, I'm holding it with one hand. In my hand, this doesn't really look like a Zoom. Well, when you compare this with the Sony lens that they have, this is only half as long and only half as heavy. I don't want to mention the price difference here. You can find out from the internet. Now, this lens is also built very, very well, like all Tamron lenses. Now, this has a filter size of 67, which is a very common filter size. I'm sure you already have a filter in your kit. And in case if you need to buy a new one as a protection, it won't be very expensive too. So all in all, this lens is perfectly suited for, anyone who's into fashion, glamour, wedding. Those portraits that you can do is amazing. I showed you the added advantage of doing close-ups with these lenses. You don't need to carry a separate lens for your close-up shots of that wedding ring or your cake or eyes, or you want to show the expensive jewelry watch the bridegroom was wearing and things like that. This is one lens that will do the entire job. Well, yes, there is a slight trade-off, which is you can go only up to 180, and the 180 to 200, the 20 mm difference is the only trade-off. I don't think that 20 mm difference or the lack of a 200 mm will cost you an image. Definitely for the kind of work that I just mentioned, you are not going to lose that image because 180 is a perfect size. At 2.8, 180, perfect. I am going to keep this lens for a long time in the studio till Tamron allows us to. And I'm going to keep shooting a lot of fashion portrait shots with this, and I'm going to keep releasing them too. And in case if you choose to go for this lens instead of the 70-200, the big, heavy, monstrous lens, you're going to save a lot of space in your camera bag too. And if you're someone who's interested in learning photography, of course, Pixel Viilage has a website where we have some of the finest photography mentors teaching photography online for you. Well, log on to www.pixelviilage.com to know more. Bye for now. Hey, थोड़ा केक बचा था ना? ए बताओ ना यार किधर है?